Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we've got a packed episode. We're going to talk a bit about Major 4, look ahead to champs, talk about what went wrong for some teams. We're going to do an initial reaction to the teams who didn't make champs. What do they need to do to kickstart their offseason? And then it's going to be a big dive into Brock and I's voting ballot for the awards for the regular season of CDL 2024. We're doing a collab with some other content creators and voting on some stuff. We don't want to exactly reveal who or what because we don't want to spoil their content, but they said it was okay for us at least to talk about what we're putting on our ballot. It's not necessarily going to be our final answers, but we'll get into that more later, so stay tuned for that. It'll be something exciting to talk about, to see where Brock and I rank the players for individual awards. Some fun stuff there. If you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Brock, how you doing today?
Oh, doing pretty good on this fine Monday. What a Major 4 tournament it was this weekend. This last weekend was pretty insane.
Yeah, I mean, it was absurd. I mean, like, I wasn't able to watch everything, as everybody knows, pretty much going into the weekend. I was on an anniversary trip, so I was low service, hiking, kayaking, doing all this, not watching any matches really in live time. I was like randomly checking up on Twitter, seeing what was happening, and I remember like thinking my eyes were deceiving me when I saw LAG had beat Toronto. And then I thought my eyes were deceiving me even more when I saw LAG was in winners final, but then I saw they played LAT winners round 2, and I was like, oh, they own that franchise. So that's not shocking there. And I was able to watch back some highlights of some stuff, but Brock definitely going to be the more knowledgeable person on this weekend. But overall, a crazy tournament. And honestly, I think regardless of what happened, Brock, I think we can both agree not the results we expected, obviously, in terms of LAG getting third, but not the teams that I think either of us thought were going to make champs. I mean, I vividly remember just a few weeks ago us kind of writing off LAG.
Yep.
And like basically saying like, they're probably not going to make it, so we don't count them. And then they shut us up quickly and had an excellent performance over the past few weeks.
They sure did. And Thieves ended up making it after really really tough online, and they won it on land.
Yeah, they were able to clutch up and take out Miami, and that pretty much sealed the deal for them. That was huge. I really did expect one of Vegas or Carolina to make it. I truly did. I was hoping and praying that both would, because I wanted to watch both those teams play. I like the players in Vegas. I especially like Tej, Clay, Fellow over on the side of Ravens, and neither of them were able to make it, which is shocking because unless, maybe it's recency bias or something, and like maybe you have thoughts on this as well, Brock, but like those are two of the better teams I can remember in the CDL era not qualifying for champs. Like those are two teams that were overall like pretty good. That Vegas team had a lot of talent on it, and that Carolina team was not bad at all on land. They got such a tough draw, going 3-4, starting in losers, and then having LAG take out Toronto and sending Toronto to them in losers round 1. Brutal draw.
Yeah, that's just tough. And once I'm sure once they saw LAG beat Toronto, that just kind of demoralized them even more. Play LAG or Toronto. Which one would you rather play?
No matter how hot LAG is in the weekend, you're always going to choose to play them over a Toronto team. But with that being said, like as much as we want to say like that sucks, they had to draw that team. Like it's on them. Like they lost some matches in the online split that they definitely should not have lost, and that caused them to be in losers. Like at the end of the day, if you want to make champs, you got to be able to beat teams, and like their season was much more than just getting an unlucky draw into losers and then losing to Toronto. Like their season was much more than that. They had plenty of other chances to win some matches and make it in, and they weren't able to capitalize on it. So like as much as you and I both want to see them at champs, like it is their fault they're not there.
Yeah, definitely is. Like you said, they lost a lot of online matches, where they should have won because they would do it on land.
Yep, and I mean another land performance here where they finished top 12, last place. Like that's 0 points. That cost them again. But I mean, shout out to LAG, a crazy run to third place, which is just absolutely absurd. Estriel making a case for Rookie of the Year, which is very interesting because he was not a person necessarily we thought, but it's kind of depending on how you weigh in those land performances, because Estriel, the highest average placing of any rookie, and I believe I saw he's the only rookie to beat one of the top 4 teams on land. Had a .98 this weekend, and just, I mean, the weird thing is like when you look at LAG, and that's partially due to the fact that they were 6-0'd on Sunday, so some of their KDs did drop, but like Fame was at a 0.85. Flames was at a 0.95. Estria was at a 0.98, and Diamondcon at a 0.99. So the team did it with nobody having a 1 or higher KD on the weekend. But I'm can't exactly pull up those exact stats, but I'm sure that they were severely hindered, obviously, by losing 6-0 on Sunday. Like, those maps kind of did deflate their stats a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like I said, it made winners finals for the first time in their team history.
Yeah, that's what it's like. It's weird because like I think when they won the major that we were at in Vanguard, obviously they started in losers.
Yep.
So like that major, obviously they weren't in winners finals because they made their whole run through losers round 1. And there's no other time they've ever been in a situation to be in a winners final, which is crazy to think about. That we are, I guess we didn't really have that kind of bracket style too much in like MW19, besides like champs, but like from Cold War on, never in a winners final is insane. Especially because like they haven't always been this like low budget, no coaching staff or like low amount of coaching staff team. Like they've always been like before this year historically high spenders, and they still have been this bad.
Yep.
But shout out to LAG, they got it done, and like, man, Brock, not only did they make champs, they got the 6th seed. Like these guys like blew through it and got to champs relatively easily in terms of like the way the point standings look. Obviously, we know the road for them wasn't necessarily that easy, but they kind of just blew through everyone, and here they are at champs.
Yeah, if you had told me at the start of the season this LAG team would pretty much stay the same besides one player got taken out, they're in sixth seed. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and like emphatically too, like they were way behind and they're at 200. They tied Seattle Surge. Only reason they're not in the 5th seed is because of, the tiebreakers, the series win-loss, as well as they were behind in map win-loss percentage too. But honestly, for Gorillas, we'll talk about the champs bracket in a second, so maybe save this, but the 6th seed is looking like a better spot to be than the 5 seed right now, because 5 seed you get to play the Subliners, who obviously are a red hot team coming off a win, and 6th seed you get to play OpTic, who definitely has a chance to improve, but like if you were to pick a team to play right now, OpTic or Subliners, you're certainly picking OpTic.
Yeah, most definitely.
Couple other teams to talk about. Obviously, Brock, we talked about LAG, talked about a couple other teams, but NYSL, the team of the weekend, no doubt. They are the champions. Just an absolutely incredible event from Hydra. Sib was absolutely shooting. The big story for me, on top of like we expect Sib and Hydra to shoot, especially if they're winning an event, but Kismet was really the big story for me. He had a fantastic weekend, a fantastic Sunday. In that grand final, he was absolutely awesome as well, dropping a 1.12 along with Hydra, 22,000 damage in those 6 maps. Kismet was just an absolute beast this weekend. And shocker, that is kind of the catalyst. We've been saying it all year. He's an X factor for them. Like, we expect Hydra and Sib, if this New York team wants any chance, those two are going to have to be playing well. Sky's going to have to just do his job, fill in the gaps with that main AR role, play some objective. But we knew it was going to come down to Kismet having to hit that 99 Kiz form, and he was on it this weekend. And shocker, look what happened. New York won.
Yep. He sure did hit his form. He got his confidence back, he said in the interview when they won. And, and they're going to the champs going back to back now.
And we're not going to reveal our picks or anything. We're going to talk about how the bracket looks, but I think New York has a very good chance to repeat. Because as we've seen historically, Brock, the team that wins the major, because there's always usually a major like a couple weeks before champs, the team that historically wins that major, they don't always win, but they tend to do very, very well at champs. Like, they find themselves on Sunday poised with a chance to win pretty much every time. Because like United went back to back in Black Ops 4. Just even like thinking from then on, like TK won. Like, I'll go even back to World War II just so I can try to remember it. Like, I might screw it up. Even Black Ops 3, like Envy won the event before, then won champs. World War II, TK won the event before, was in grand finals, got second. And then even into like Black Ops 4, United went back to back to end the year. MW19, I think Empire might have, but with the home series, it was weird. Cold War, I think FaZe actually bottomed out in the major before with that Seattle loss, but then they ended up winning. Vanguard, these went back to back at the end.
Yep.
And then MW2 last year, Subliners went back to back at the end.
Yep.
And then this year. So like historically, like when you look at it, that's like damn near half or more of the time That the team when they win the event before, they find themselves in finals or winning for the most part.
Hmm.
It happens very often, not every time, obviously, but it happens very often. So New York, poised to do so, and like the dynasty talk has started. Obviously, if New York were to win, would they be a dynasty? I think you would probably have to say yes, right, Brock? I mean, back to back would be the first time anybody's ever gone back to back.
Yeah, I would.
World champs. It's a little weird though because they did change one player, which is always the weird thing with like the Atlanta phase conversation. To me, is like the OpTic dynasty is like so easy to categorize as a dynasty because they have the world championship, they have the numerous event wins, and they were the same roster the whole time.
Yep.
Like complexity gets a little shaky because they did change Clay for Karma, so like you can say like, oh, they made a one player change, but it was only the one player over like that course, so it's like okay, whatever. And then like this face team is weird to me because like they have switched their fourth so much. It's like the organization itself you could kind of consider somewhat of a dynasty, but we need to have that conversation as well because of their finals record.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. They are final bosses until the finals.
What is it? The last 11 finals, we heard the stat, they're 2-9. And
Jeez.
it's like I used to always defend it, and you were kind of on the same campus as me. Like we'd always defend, like people would say, like they crumble on Sundays, and this was back when they hadn't had all these losses piling up, and we were kind of like, I think it's just maybe they play some tough teams, they happen to lose. But like at this point, it's hard to deny that like something is wrong with them in grand finals. Like not completely broken, and they're not like complete like chokers or something because they always find themselves there in the final, and they do win them. Like for the most part, aside from Vanguard, like Simpa DBZ, BO4, they win. In MW19, they won a few. They had some troubles in finals there. In Cold War, obviously, they were dominant, winning a bunch there. Vanguard was the one year they really didn't win. Going into MW2, they were able to get a win, and this year they were able to get a win. So pretty much together, they've won every year except Vanguard. But like the struggles just continue to pile on. Like you're not wrong. Like, going into the final, they hadn't lost a map.
Yeah, and then they see the finals and they're like freaking are like so scared to like lose. It seems like in a way.
Yeah, it's just like it truly like makes no sense. Like this team is so dominant on the way there, and like something in finals like just goes wrong. Like they were dominant. They 3-0'd a good subliners team who went on to win the event. They 3-0'd a good surge team. They 3-0'd LAG who was hot going into the match, coming back from like 5-1 or whatever in that map too. And then they get to final and they just can't beat a team in subliners who they already beat once on the weekend in a 3-0 fashion. Like I wonder too, like you think it's also maybe a factor of like teams are so confident when they see them in final because like they know that this team has blown it, so they get a little bit of a delusional confidence.
Yeah, I would probably say so. And it's definitely in the back of these players' heads, saying, "Oh, again, we're in the finals. We're gonna lose again."
It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's so weird because they're so good. Like they shouldn't have this issue.
Yeah, it's
It's not like they have players that are incapable of closing out these events. Like Simp, Abizi, Selly, Abdraza. These are some of the best players we have in the league.
yeah, these are world-class players. It's almost like, do you question like change up the trio at some point if they can't keep winning?
I just don't know how you do though, because like it's so hard to consistently like be on top. And like this team, Brock, once again, it's the end of the season and they finished, first place regular season. They finished first place and they finished by a good margin again this year. They were 37-8 in their series. Like they finished in first place by a good margin yet again. They've finished first place every single year for the CDL standings. They've been in Champs Grand Finals. In MW, they were there. Cold War, they won it. Vanguard, they were there. MW2 was the only time they missed, and they got third. And like this year, they seem poised to have a very good chance to find themselves in the final again. It's like, could you potentially look at changing up the trio? Because like, I guess you could like make the argument, oh, they can't win, but like, there's no way you can change them up because like this team is constantly in the final, and like, there's a very realistic possibility this team wins in a couple weeks and wins champs again, Brock. Like,
Yeah,
you can't change them.
if they end up winning in the couple weeks, they'll shut everyone up.
Yeah, it's got to be. I feel like it's got to just be adaptation because like Draza seems like a good fourth, but I don't know, with all the out of game drama around him, I still am not convinced unless they win champs that they're going to bring back Draza. From a pure Call of Duty standpoint, absolutely 100% Draza fits this team incredible. This team is so good, they should bring him back. But
Yep.
I don't know. I still have like this weird feeling that like there's a chance that this team like breaks up because of the out of game stuff. I don't know. I could be completely wrong on that, but just a weird gut feeling I have.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, they finish first every year, or in every grand final, but just can't get the win half the time, or a lot of the
Yes.
time.
So it's like, what's the solution? Like,
I wish I knew.
how do they keep losing? Like, their team's so good. Like, when you look at it on paper, this is the best roster on paper as well. Like, when you look at it, this is the best roster on paper.
Yeah,
And something just keeps happening to them. It's so weird.
yeah. I can't really point a finger to what it is, and it just seems like they just don't have no ice, and they're just not confident when they hit the finals once they lose like a map or two.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess we can harp on FaZe more if they end up not winning champs. But moving on, Brock. Speaking of no ice, as you just mentioned, OpTic, the ice that they so incredibly had in Major 3 is just like completely gone. They finished last. They lose to a Heretics team, which is like almost hitting rock bottom for this team because this is a Heretics team that they have like owned.
Yep.
This year, ever since they lost that one online match in like stage 1, they've essentially just owned Heretics. Like
They have.
They lose to them now, and boy, it's scary. It's definitely a scary time for OpTic. They do have a couple weeks to get things rolling. It seems like in their camp, everything is just potentially chalked. They lose around 11 game 5. They lose 2 searches again. They're like a loss or 2 away from tying Breach for the most CDL S&D losses in a row. It was a pretty brutal series from Pred. Did not look comfortable on the map at all. Dashy played pretty well. Kenny looks to be struggling a little bit as well. Shottzyy, not the best series from him. Although he did look pretty good in a couple of the respawns there. Or I guess just the map 1. Oh man, Brock. I don't even know how to attack what's wrong with this team. Like, it really is just the search and destroy. Like, they're still fine in control, even though they got 3-0'd in this, and they're good in hardpoint. Like, overall, they have some issues in hardpoint. Kenny tweeting about like maybe Pred not touching the hill.
Yeah.
But it's like the issue with this team is clear. It's search and destroy. Like, there's no debating that. Like, this team, I don't think anybody questions if they can go into champs and play good enough and respawn to win it.
Yeah. At this point, they should just get this. I don't know. Start scrimming searches for like so many hours against anyone, literally anyone.
They have to find challenger teams, or honestly, maybe they could find CDL teams because some of these CDL teams might be switching up rosters and practicing because they do have the Esports World Cup. So like, you can still get like quality reps against professional players because like those players are still going to be playing the game because they want to crack at that Esports World Cup. It's a unique situation this year with that.
Yeah. And they need to somehow figure the search out within like 2 weeks time if they want to go anywhere. But it's still OpTic. At the end of the day, it's their home major. They have the fans with them.
And like we said, like, I don't think either of us would question. Like, I think both of us think their respawn still could easily, in a matter of an instant, be at a point where like their respawn could be good enough to win champs. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
It's just like, in the matter of 2 to 3 weeks, do we truly believe that they can break down their entire search and destroy game plan and fix it? I just don't know about that.
Yeah. Man. They're kind of like the old OpTic teams, but the old OpTic teams actually won searches here and there, not lose like 12 straight.
Yeah, and like, once again, I'm still on the train that like people calling for a roster change are pretty insane, but I did hear like Octane talking about this a lot, and I kind of want your thoughts on this as well, Brock. I thought this was a very interesting point, and obviously Octane, a player, very smart about the game, knows a lot more than most, and like he was saying, he thinks Pred is having an issue right now, because to me, I do think like the issue with this team right now and their struggles, mostly, it's obviously an issue with everyone. They're playing terrible. But I think mostly to me, I'm looking at Pred because like, in this series specifically, a team that he's always played so well against this year in Miami, he was 77 and 92. He was the lowest damage in the lobby by a pretty large margin, and the lowest KD in the lobby by a pretty wide margin. He was the worst player in the lobby, which is shocking because it almost never happens for Pred. But like Octane was saying, he thinks maybe it's been a steep learning curve for Pred because he was given the ultra mega green light for the past few years. He's been in the league on the Seattle team by Lamar, just like, basically nothing you can do on the map is wrong because you're just going out there to get kills. And like Octane was saying, maybe he hasn't had to think a ton. In
Yeah.
regards to what he's been doing. He's more just been able to do and just get kills and, do whatever. Whereas now on this team with Kenny, they're trying to play a little more structured and they do have a lot better roster. So they don't need him to just go out there and red dot chase and just get a bunch of kills for them to win because they do have all 4 players who can get so many kills. Whereas on the side of Seattle, Lamar can't slay like a Dashy can. Your second SMG is shottzyy. Mac can't slay like a shottzyy can. Kenny Sim more on an even playing field there. But overall, the team in Seattle couldn't slay as much. So maybe Pred having to change his play style a lot this year, and it's been a hard adaptation for him. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
I mean, that is definitely a good thought because definitely if you gotta change your whole playstyle for the better, it's definitely very hard to. And it's not something you want to do compared to what you were doing. Just like go on slaying, killing everything.
Oh yeah, the way he was playing on Seattle is way more fun.
Yeah, but you gotta think in the long run, this could potentially, win champs by changing up playstyle, not doing what you did in Seattle. More so because we don't need you to.
Changing your playstyle to be more team oriented and more like win focused is obviously going to help you in the long run, and Pred knows that.
Yeah, sure, it's fun getting all those kills, but you think Dashy wants to block spawns and stuff? He wants to shoot his gun.
Yeah, and Dashy was incredible in this series again. By the way, he most damage in the lobby, 1.12, highest KD, highest damage in the lobby. He played really well. Pretty high engagements also for being that main AR player. But also, Brock, in that same kind of monologue I heard, Octane was kind of proposing, like people were talking about, like, roster change wise for OpTic, like, I got to believe if they bottom out like top 6, they're 100% making a change.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I personally don't think they should drop Kenny, but I'm like extremely confident that if they don't win champs, they're going to drop Kenny because that's just how OpTic operates. Like a lot of times, if there's somebody that is like the glue of the team, holds them accountable, it seems like they don't care. It's just like talent stack. Whatever. Like Kenny has been very good for content. He uploads a lot of content, probably more than anybody on the team. Maybe shottzyy does too. I don't really watch any of their content too much, like the individual players.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but I know Kenny uploads a lot on YouTube because he's like the one player I will tune in every once in a while for like Q&As or something. But we know OpTic historically, like maybe they don't care as much about the players who will bring accountability. Maybe they care more about talent stacking. And I could see a world where if there's a super talented flex player like a Scrap out there, they may attempt to get a player like him. But Octane kind of proposed with his chat at the time a thought, Brock, of if Hydra is available as a free agent, do you try to poach him to replace Pred? I kind of want to know your thoughts on that because I think there's a pretty clear answer. I'm just wondering what you think.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
As weird as that is, because like Pred is an excellent player. And could OpTic come out and win champs in a few weeks here? Wouldn't be shocked because Pred is an excellent player. You can definitely win champs and win events with Pred in your team.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a couple players to me that are absolute can't miss if they are willing to sign with your team. And who knows, Hydra may want to stay with New York, especially if they win champs, because how could you blame them for wanting to stick with them? But who knows, like all players, you never know. Like the one team that can poach you off a team would be an OpTic, in my opinion. Like the one team that could probably get you to leave your team because of the juice it can give you and the potential career it can set you up for after, that would be OpTic just with the content game.
Yep.
They're the one team that has the power to poach players from wherever. So if Hydra was willing to leave, there are a couple players out there that I believe that you drop anybody for, like in their respective role. Like I think if Simp is willing to come to your team, you drop anybody for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Hydra is willing to come to your team, you drop anybody for him. I think Scrap. To be honest, those might be the only 3 players. There are players that are so good. Maybe a BZ, I guess if you're talking entry. Like an entry fast SMG, I guess I would probably drop anybody for a BZ too. For the main AR, maybe sell him as well. He's incredible, but like there are very few players. It's a handful or less of players in the world that are like, if this guy wants to come to my team, I drop anybody for him. To me, Hydra's on that short list. Pred is very high up on it, but to me, Hydra is a much better player. I don't know how you can debate it. More wins, he's got the ring. Hydra's incredible, dude.
Yep, definitely. And like I said, Kenny, most likely the scapegoat since start of the season. Since we already know that.
Oh yeah, if OpTic doesn't win champs, I would be absolutely floored if Kenny sticks on this roster. Not saying I don't think he should. I think Kenny should be on this roster no matter what next year because I think he brings a accountability and a winning nature to OpTic that we haven't seen in a long time. Like basically since Scump brought that winning nature in general, just how many wins he had. But like Kenny brings an accountability and a winning nature to OpTic that I don't think we've seen since Crim was on the team.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, there's no world where they should drop Kenny. I think they should just talent stack around Kenny and do whatever. Like if they just picked up Hydra, if he was available or something, I think that'd be incredible. If they keep this roster, I still think they could be really good. Maybe they would struggle in search. Who knows? But I think if they don't win champs, they're going to drop Kenny, which is just insane to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed.
Brock, let's take a quick look ahead to champs. I don't want to make this episode too long because we're going to have some like probably pretty extensive previews coming up leading up to champs. So I don't want to make this episode too long. But let's just like quickly look at the bracket for champs. Just initial quick thoughts on it. Like what stands out to you and stuff. Oh man. To me, an interesting thing that's standing out, Brock, is the fact that it looks like we're potentially heading for a battle of LA and losers round 1. So Thieves staring down a very tough barrel no matter what, because they play Ultra, a very good team in winners round 1, and then they play the loser. If they do lose, they play the loser of OpTic and Gorillas, who if OpTic are to lose, they're still a team that can hit form at any time. They're scary. And LAG is a team that owns LAT. So
yeah,
that was the initial sticking out thing to me, is LAT with a very tough draw no matter what the hell happens in their situation.
Yeah, it is very tough. But I also think Toronto, the Ultra and Thieves is gonna be a good match for winners.
Yeah, I absolutely like. I'm very excited. Like FaZe Heretics is the one where I'm kind of like, I expect FaZe to roll through them, but Heretics will like keep maps competitive. Like I'm not going to be shocked if they make this a competitive 4-game series or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think Subliner Surge is awesome because Subliners look really good. Obviously, they win the event, but Surge are a team that cannot be slept on. They're a good team, and it's the 04 Sib.
Little man.
Yeah,
little show.
Like you said, Ultra Thieves is awesome, and OpTic LAG is super intriguing because, like, I don't know, Brock. You can look at this two ways. To me, I think you can look at it both ways. Obviously, you being the resident LAG stan, you got to be excited that that's the top 4 team they drew, because it's definitely the team that you want to play of the top 4 right now. Yeah. New York looks awesome. Toronto is still Toronto. They're still good. And FaZe still is rolling through everybody except in the grand finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
most definitely.
To me, that LAG series, Brock, I don't know if you see it the same way, but I think if you're OpTic, I think both teams can find a way to be like super excited about it, which is so weird. Because like if you're OpTic, you're like, okay, we're really struggling in S&D, but LAG, I feel like is a team we can really handle in response because they don't have high slaying upside. They have really good teamwork, but like their slaying upside's low. So if you're OpTic, you're like, we could beat this team in 3 respawns. Mm-hmm. On the other side, if you're Gorillas, you're like, oh my God, we can easily beat this team in 2 searches, because LAG are one of the best teamwork teams and are a pretty good search team. Like you believe you can definitely win 2 searches. So like if you're LAG, you're like, oh my God, we can easily win both searches against this team. We just have to find a way to steal a respawn. So I think that's very funny that like OpTic clear advantage in respawns, LAG clear advantage in search, and it's so funny that they both probably love their matchup, which is usually something you don't necessarily hear.
Yeah. If you would have told me LAG would love to play OpTic at this point, I would have called you crazy.
I know. And it's dude, losers or winners round 2 looking just juicy too. Like we could have FaZe Subliners, OpTic Ultra. That's just looking insane. The fact that OpTic and FaZe are set up on opposite sides of the bracket, it leads to a potential OpTic versus FaZe winners final. Obviously, OpTic has a long way to go to that, but whenever you have a chance to have a deep in a champs OpTic phase with the 2 brands, it's just awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're set up at a point where I can't really see Miami beating FaZe, but in the other 3 series, there's like a world where like you can see, because how good Surge has been, there's a world where they pull off an upset against Subliners. Like Thieves, you just never know. They seem to make every series competitive. They finally won a LAN series last week, and then that OpTic Gorilla series, who knows with how bad OpTics looked, but also OpTic could flip a switch and make a run. You never know. The champs is going to be awesome. That is what I do know.
Yep, I'll be there with my LAG jersey.
You'll be standing LAG. People will hate you because they play OpTic round 1.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yep. Should be very interesting though. Excited. Also very excited to go to champs as well.
I'm super excited. It'll be my first time in Texas. I'm really excited to eat a bunch of barbecue.
Facts.
Experience the city. We usually end up staying a couple extra days, on whatever end. Don't want to reveal our travel plans too much, but we usually like to stay a little bit extra and, go explore the city. We're going with 2 of our other friends, so it's going to be a very fun time just exploring the city, having a good time, hanging out with friends, little vacation. And I'm excited because always wanted to go to Texas. I love barbecue. I'm mostly excited to try that for food, but I'm excited to be in Texas.
Same here.
Brock, last thing we want to do here in this episode, or actually, no, I forgot. There's one more thing we want to do really quickly. I don't want to make this episode too long, but one other thing we wanted to do quickly was kind of react to the teams that missed, maybe initial thoughts on what they could potentially do with their roster. Obviously, this is such a weird one, Brock, because it's so different. Like normally, like these teams are done, no chance to play anymore, but like the Esports World Cup is coming and they all have invites. You would expect them all to try to make changes, but like they can't make changes right now with any of the teams that are at champs because obviously those teams are playing. So like the pool of players they have to pick from is like challenger players for the most part. So like the changes they can make are very tough. So like, are they going to run it back with their teams? I guess my thought, I want to run through each team really quickly and just like, if you had to gut react right now, obviously you can change your opinion on them as we get deeper into the offseason, as we see the free agents and the people who are looking for teams. Like gut reaction, which players in the teams would you for sure keep, maybe look into keeping and for sure dropping with our 12th place team, Boston, Breach, Brock? Are you keeping anyone? I think I'm keeping Beans and looking for 3 more.
I would say Beans, and I think they do keep Snoopy, but I don't know if I would want to keep Snoopy at this point.
Yeah, I guess for this segment, let's do who you would keep, because I agree with you. I think they're going to keep Snoopy on the roster for whatever reason. I do think they're going to keep him, but in my opinion, I would like to see them keep Beans because I do think he's a high upside main AR type player. And I would just like to see them look for more players. Like keep Beans, look for the rest is what I would do with Boston.
Yeah, I would definitely keep Beans. He was shooting basically the whole when he came in. Very good search.
And does he make the correct play every time? No, but he's a young player. You can mold him. Like you can't teach the gun skill and talent he has though.
Yep.
And you're a lower tier team. Like you need to, anytime you can stack decent gun skill and raw like mechanical skill, you need to get those type of players and figure it out from there because you have to be able to compete with the top teams.
Yep. I agree with you. So keep Beans.
Then we go to our 11th place team, Minnesota. I think I'm mostly blowing this one up too. I think it's keep Linz and
3 more.
Get 3 more. Maybe you can keep Gunless as a main AR instead of a flex. Like I don't hate Gunless here, but also I can completely see dropping him. I'd say keep Linz and look for the rest.
Yeah.
You agree with that, or you had something different?
Honestly, I'll just probably keep Linz and look for 3 more.
If I'm Carolina, Brock, I think I'm keeping the sub duo. So that's why I wanted to put the tentative thing in there. I'm keeping Gwyn for sure, obviously, because you're not going to be able to get a player more talented than Gwyn on these bottom teams like this.
Yep.
I'm keeping Gwyn for sure. And I think I'm like a tentative on Tej right now. Because I think Tej is really good. He's really good in search. He raises the floor of a bottom team so much because he can be so good in search and destroy.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I'm tentative is because I want to see the sub market play out. Because like if there is like a domino effect where like a Hydra goes to OpTic, Pride becomes a free agent, he kicks a sub off another one of the top teams, and like one of the subs drops out, like I do feel like Carolina could be a destination. If one of the subs falls off the top 4 teams or there's another really good sub that becomes available, I do feel like Carolina is a destination where they may look to go just because they could pair with Gwyn and make another really good sub duo. So I'd say like Tej is tentative. I would definitely keep him if I can't find an upgrade, but I'm for sure keeping Gwyn and, Tej is on the fence.
Yeah. Definitely for me, keep Gwyn for sure. I mean, I love Tej, but I don't know. Like you said, you kind of see how the market does play out. And honestly, for this Carolina team, I'd probably keep Clay as the main.
You think? I mean, he's just so inconsistent, but at the end of the day, is Clay and fan base wise, it does help out. But I don't know. I feel like you can find an upgrade. I feel like Clay could be a tentative, but like also once again, like you didn't make champs, you finished 10th. It's hard to want to run it back with any more than 2 players.
Yeah. Or honestly, I would go to Gwyn and see if he wants to keep any of his players.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. Now, Brock, Vegas, like what the hell do you do with this team? Every player in this team always drops a 1.1 and then they lose.
I know, I don't understand.
To me, it's a non-negotiable. You keep Nero.
Agreed.
Nero was incredible this year. Like we're going to talk about it in a little bit, like our best SMGs in the year and stuff. But Nero is like, I wasn't really able to find a place just because he didn't make champs. It's so hard to put him on these like first team lists and stuff. But like, I think Nero was the best SMG outside of the top 4 teams. I think he had a better year than Envoy
Yeah.
as well on the top 4 teams. I think it's hard to say like overall, but like I think the FaZe duo was obviously better. I think Kleenex obviously was better. I think the OpTic duo for the most part was better. I think you could even argue overall on the year, Nero had almost a better year than Kiz. Obviously, Kiz gets the event win and his team is super good. Like awesome Major 4, but Nero was incredible. He was probably the best SMG outside the top 4.
Mhm.
I think
Man.
you for sure keep him. I think you look to upgrade from Johnny because I do think you can. I honestly think you might keep Attach and Geo. I think you might just change out the sub duo. Like as weird as it is, this team didn't make champs, but like I think there's so much to build out. They just had that stretch after dropping Purge where they were like flipping around with Asim and they couldn't win a map. And like if it wasn't for that, they make champs. Like I don't know. Geo is so good. Like he's a rookie of the year candidate. He's super good. Nero's super good. Attach is attached. Like I think you're gonna have a hard time finding a better veteran main AR. I'm literally keeping 3 of these players and finding a new sub for Johnny. And Johnny was also pretty good this year too.
Yeah. This team is like they're good, but like I said, they just lose.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like this team, I still feel like talent wise, this team can. They sit in 9th and they're not at champs, and I still think they're the most talented team outside the top 4.
Yep. Only if they would have got Johnny in before Asim.
Yeah,
They
would
would
probably
be a
be
champs definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I legit might keep 3 players. I'm 100% keeping Nero and Attached, and I'm probably keeping Geo as well because dude, Geo was really good for a rookie. Like I just once again, like, is this an excellent team? Obviously not. They didn't make champs, but like you got to remember, this is Vegas Legion. It's hard for them to get good players. Like, still a Nero, Geo, and Attach. Like, I'm still probably picking that team to make champs going into next year if they're going to be on a team for the entire season.
Yeah. It still kind of mind blows me how Nero was the best SMG outside the top 4, and he got benched in Boston last year.
Dude, screw it, Brock. Nero and Vivid. Put Vivid on this team, and we're good. That's my pickup. Vivid, Nero, Attach, Geo, run it.
I like
Nero
it.
and Vivid just running at people, Attach and Geo just killing behind them. Whatever, do it.
Run it.
Champs next year, I promise.
Put in the World Cup. See how they do.
Dude, I would love it. I love it. Shut the fuck up. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want that team. What you just said, I want that. Vivid is currently a free agent. They could start scrimming tomorrow. Please, Vegas Legion, listen to this. Attach, Nero, Geo, listen. Put Vivid on your roster. Johnny, nothing against you. I actually do think Johnny's a really good player, and shout out to Johnny because I do think he should be in the league next year.
Mm-hmm.
He showed a lot. He's a very talented player. So that really sounds like a bash on Johnny from both of us, but it actually isn't. Like Johnny's a really good player. He should be in the league next year. If he's not, teams need to be investigated because he's an actual high ceiling SMG, and those are hard to come by.
Yep.
Agreed. All right, Brock. Now we can get to our last little segment here. Maybe you're going to keep this one a little more short and sweet if we can. Try to keep the episode under an hour because, like I said, probably some long episodes coming up. So we're doing a thing. We're not going to mention who this is for in the community, Brock, but there is another content creator in the community reached out to us. So shout out to him because it's a cool opportunity. But we're going to be voting for basically a panel to decide like awards for the season, just like you would for like the NBA with like first team All NBA, second team All NBA, that kind of stuff. Like hard point player of the year, S&D, control, all those kind of things. Going to be trying to decide those. For this episode, we're going to specifically just talk about MVP race, Rookie of the Year race, AR Players of the Year, SMG Players of the Year, and then first team, second team, and then the all rookie team. So pretty similar to like NBA awards. If any of you watch the NBA, it's the most comparable sport.
Yep.
For this, we're going to go over those and kind of do what we're thinking as of now. We have to submit our votes technically before like tomorrow afternoon. We're going to submit them tonight. But this is like a little asterisk. Our votes are subject to change. We may change them after recording this episode. If we like second guess, we may change them in the middle of recording if one of us puts a convincing argument to switch things around. But Brock and I were both asked to fill out a ballot for this. So it's a pretty cool opportunity. So you guys will see tomorrow or whenever the person uploads the information, what they're doing with it. But we want to shout them out. And I'll probably tweet about it after all is said and done and their stuff is out. But we appreciate the opportunity. It's a really cool thing and hope to continue to be a part of it going forward. So Brock, I know you can't mention the person's name either, but it's a pretty cool opportunity. I'm excited to do it.
Yep, me too. Very, very cool to do.
But yeah, it's cool. It's like being part of a voter panel, like it is in the NBA, where like so many writers can vote for MVP. Which I mean, if any of you are NBA fans, dude, some of those dudes need to be investigated. I mean, I'm a Bucks fan. Somebody voted for Bobby Portis for all defense team. That dude can't play defense. Some of these people need to be investigated.
Literally, they just throw like up at the dartboard a dart and see who it lands on.
Yeah, because I don't even care. Bobby's face shouldn't be on the dartboard for any all defensive team. That dude sucks. He's terrible on defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, here we go, Brock. First category we're going to do is top 5 for MVP. In order from first to second. I feel like I want to hear yours first. You can give like a little blurb, probably more for like first and second, why you voted them first and second, because I do believe it's probably a 2-horse race, and maybe you disagree, but I think it's a 2-horse race for MVP with some very good players being in 3 through 5.
Yeah. For me, for the top 5 for MVP, well, first I have is Simp. You know, Simp's just Simp. You know what you see on the map, 3-piece, 2-piece, everywhere you go.
Yep.
You know, just very, very, probably one of the best players ever to play.
Yeah, 100%.
And number 2 is definitely Scrap. These two were definitely like so neck and neck because Scrap has been dropping to 1.1, 1.2s all year for this Toronto team.
Yeah, I really don't
Through
know
their
who
ups
could
and
out-vote
downs.
but them.
Yeah. And my third has been shottzyy, because shottzyy, has been pretty good for the most part of the whole season. Even when, they're in a little down right now, OpTic, but shottzyy still has been putting up some of these numbers. And number 4 for me is Hydra. Hydra's super talented, and he's won the Major 4 tournament. And then my 5th for MVP was I kind of really didn't know to go with until you said this person, Ryan, to be honest. Because I was like, who do I even vote for? And I'm kind of on the board with you with this, with Draza in a way.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, I don't think this is going to come as a shock to anyone, but my top 4 is the same as yours in terms of players. It is very jumbled around, though. We do have a pretty different order in terms of where we place them, but I have the same top 4 players. I did end up switching after I told you I thought maybe Draza for 5. I did end up switching.
Yeah.
But I think Draza would probably be 6 for me. But also the reason that Draza's 6 and the player I switched him out for is the reason that I differ from who I think is the MVP. I've been on the simp train all year. But the more I think about it in terms of how I think about it in sports, I ended up putting Scrap as my MVP. And I don't think you're wrong at all if you vote for Simp, but I think Simp almost has the LeBron argument in this case. Like, you and I are both big NBA fans, and you could legit make an argument. It's kind of the same thing that happened with Jordan. Obviously, Jordan a little bit before our time, so we don't know as much about that context. But like, there was like a stretch in the NBA where LeBron made the finals literally every year for like 10 straight years, and you probably could have given him MVP every year if you were just giving it to the best player. But that's not what MVP is. MVP is most valuable. So once again, I think Simp is the best player in the league. And so if you want to give it to Simp, I can't argue, because that would be like me arguing against you giving it to LeBron one of those years. Like, if you want to give it to Simp, I completely understand. But to me, MVP is truly what it says in the name, MVP, most valuable to their team.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I just don't. If I look at the two teams and I say, if you replace Simp on FaZe, would they still be top 4? I believe they would. They definitely wouldn't be as dominant because Simp is incredible. But I still think with a core of Draza, BZ, and Celium, that team would still be very damn good, even if you replaced him with like a league average SMG. Like, if you threw a TJ Halley on that team, I still think they'd be really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
But I think if you took Scrap off Ultra and replaced him with a league average flex, I don't even know. Like, if you threw another Raven, if you threw like Fellow on that team, I don't think Ultra would be top 4 at all. Like, I think Insight's solid. I think Fellow's solid. Kleenex is really good. Envoy's really good. But like, I don't know that they'd be top 4, and I certainly know that they would definitely have a bigger drop off than FaZe would.
Yeah.
Because Scrap has carried a load for that team extremely this year. I mean, like, even the last 2 years, like, Hecz was a good player playing his role, but like, Hexy's role in the team worked because Scrap slayed so heavy. And the same thing this year, like, Envoy struggled a lot of the year since Major 1, but like, Scrap has picked up so much of the slaying. So I just think if you took Scrap off his team, he is truly, like what it says in the name, he's the most valuable to his team. I think his team would fall off the hardest amongst these players. So I have Scrap at 1. I have Simp at 2. I actually switched Hydra. You had shottzyy 3. I have Hydra 3, and I think there's a real case. Like, people are saying, like, Hydra, could he win it? I just think New York was too far below, because New York was pretty clearly the fourth best team pretty much the entire year until they just won this event. So I do think the body of work for the whole year puts Hydra at 3 below those two just because of that. But once again, if you're going by my scrap argument, I can see how you could use it, because I do think if you replace Hydra on this team, Kismet, Sky, Sib, I do think this team definitely falls off a pretty good amount, because Hydra is a hard carry at times for them. So I have him at 3. shottzyy at 4, because once again, he has been OpTic's best player, almost wire to wire. He had a little bit of a struggle in there early in the year, but really since Major 3 qualifiers, shottzyy, even through their ups and downs, shottzyy has been trying to hard carry them. He's been very good. And then I had Draza in at 5 for a while, but I switched him out for Cellium. Cellium, once again, the number 1 KD on the year, and continues to just be an impossible kill on the map. He's so good. And also, the fact that my 5 and 6 are both phase players is what kind of led me to convince myself to vote for Scrap, because in the top 6, I have 3 phase players. To me, that screams that they're maybe not as valuable as a guy like Scrap, who's the only player even remotely in consideration for MVP on his team.
Yeah.
All right. I like both lists. We had the same top 4 just jumbled around, and then Cellium and Draza, who I have Cellium 5. You probably have Cellium 6 right outside your top 5 if you don't have him in there.
Yeah.
And I will do maybe honorable mentions for most things, but to be honest with you, I don't really know that I have an honorable mention for this category, because like I struggle to pick my 5th player. Like, obviously I could say like Draza, but to me, to be an MVP, you have to be on one of the top teams, and your team has to have won at least an event, because like you have to be on a really good team to win MVP. So to me, it has to be somebody on the top 4. So maybe my only honorable mention would be like Draza, but there's no way I'm giving it to Draza over Simp. So not really honorable mentions for this category, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like you said, hard one to really do.
Yeah. How about Rookie of the Year, Brock? This one I feel like I don't have a genuine voting list for Rookie of the Year that I feel like for MVP, I feel like the top 4 is certainly the top 4. I don't think there's any debate in my opinion. For Rookie of the Year, I'm very lost on who I think should win, because people have such different criteria for this. Like, there are people that are saying like you can't be Rookie of the Year if your team didn't make champs, which to me is really weird, because Rookie of the Year is not as like your team doesn't. If you're most valuable, that means your team has to be really good, and you're providing a ton of value to them being so good. But for me, Rookie of the Year is just the individual rookie who performed the best, like individually. Because like in sports, the Rookie of the Year doesn't have to be on a good team at all. Like look at a guy like Victor Wembanyama. I mean, Wemby's team was absolutely horrible, but he was easily the best rookie. Whereas a guy like Chet was basically second place and was a very good rookie on an extremely good team who was the 1 seed overall in the NBA. Or I guess not in the NBA, but 1 seed in their conference, and didn't win, because guess what matters more for Rookie of the Year? It's pretty much completely an individual reward, not really an individual award, not really team success oriented like MVP is.
Yeah.
I do feel like that gets lost in maybe some people that just watch COD and don't necessarily watch sports. Is like these awards, it's like the context of them does matter. Like, I don't know if you agree with that, but to me, Rookie of the Year is basically just like, who was the best individual player? You can weigh team success a little bit. The Call of Duty obviously is different than sports. Like, we'll talk about one player who maybe one of us has winning, but you can weigh their LAN success if it's a lot higher, and that's a legit argument to make. So I don't know, Brock, who's your top 3 for Rookie of the Year?
My top 3 Rookie of the Year, I have Estriel, Gwyn, and Abuza.
Okay.
And honestly, I might change it after, but for now, I have Estriel winning, because he has been pretty good all year on the LAG team for a rookie, and he has a lot of good placings.
He's the best average LAN placing of a rookie. He has been the best player on their team for the most part. Like, Diamond had a little bit of a stretch in the beginning of the year where maybe he was the best, but Estriel's been like their highest ceiling, like pop off player for the entire year. They have 2 top 6s and a 3rd place on LAN. Like you said, like he's been the best rookie on LAN in terms of placements. Like he's even elevated at times on LAN. So I see the argument. And like I said, I just got done saying like team success doesn't matter, but I will say in terms of Call of Duty, I can see where like if you're gonna say like he was a riser on LAN, he played a lot better on LAN and led his team to placements. I can see that's one argument for team success that I do like for Rookie of the Year, especially when none of the other rookies' teams really elevated much on LAN.
Yeah.
I will say, Brock, I have the same top 3. I just flipped 1 and 2. I ended up keeping Gwyn at 1, putting Estriel 2, and putting Abuza at 3. Funny enough, I think if Abuza was in his role all year, I think he probably would have won. If he was in the natural main AR role instead of having Arcitys in the team to begin, I think Abuza probably would have won Rookie of the Year for me.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, Gwyn has been standout since day one.
Yeah, Gwyn fell off a little bit at times on LAN and a little bit towards the end of the year, but I think overall, I think individual-wise, it's hard to argue any rookie individually had a better year than Gwyn, as he was the hard carry for a lot of the year for his team.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say I think Gwyn's Rookie of the Year. Once again, if you want to point to LAN success and Estriel like being the best player in his team and leading them to LAN success, I will not argue with you. I think it's a good argument. I like Estriel to win. I do think it has to be Estriel or Gwyn, though, because Lin's really fell off towards the end of the year, and I don't think that's Lin's fault. I think it was the horrible roster change they made in dropping Vivid.
Yep.
That really hurt Lin's. And Abuza, I don't necessarily think I agree with anybody putting him as the Rookie of the Year. I think if he would have been the main the whole year, he definitely could have done it. I just think he had too slow of a start to the year. And once again, I don't think that was his fault. He was in a role that wasn't made for him. But like still, even if it wasn't his fault, you still have to take those stats and the style of play he had early in the year and account for it. And he wasn't to the top tier level that Gwyn was at the beginning of the year. So individual wise, I think Gwyn was the best performing rookie. I think if you had to like draft all the rookies in like a new draft, I think Gwyn would go first. So for that reason, I'm putting Gwyn as my 1, Estriel 2, and Abuza 3. Obviously, Lin's being an honorable mention. I think there's an honorable mention that deserves to go to like Geo and 04. But I think Geo and 04 are tougher guys to give it to, Brock, because like they only played part of the year, so it's a little bit harder to give it to them.
Yeah, but honorable mention for those two because they played pretty well when they came in.
Yeah, and they showed that they are players that should be around for a long time. Both very good players. 04 is so good in Search too.
Yeah, I was watching. He's like 12 kills, 11, 10 kills in Search.
He's so good at Search. I mean, I just sorted it by that. He's got a 1.1. He's below only players like Abizi, Linz, Lucky, Attach, Kismet, Simp, Illey, Celium, Spart. So even Illey and Spart are kind of like asterisks on that list because they played very limited amounts. If you take them out, it moves them all the way up to 8th, ahead of guys like Ghosty, Hydra, Shottzyy, I mean, Dashy, incredible Insight, incredible S&D players, TJ Haley, Scrap. He's ahead of all those guys in S&D KD. 04 is awesome this year.
Yeah, imagine if they would have had Illey on the team still and they brought in 04. Imagine that Search team.
Yeah. Abuza, Illey, 04. Yeah, that team would be really good. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Brock. Then we go to the top 3 AR players for the year. Starting with first being your winner, second runner up, third. I put it in an order that I think is pretty undebatable. I don't know. Maybe you could have a couple other players in there. For me, I went Scrap, Celium, Draza.
I like it.
I guess maybe you could sneak. Oh, well, who'd you have on your list?
I threw a curveball for my third AR player of the year, to be honest. But I put Scrap, Celium, and I put Attach.
Okay. I can get on board with it. To me, like the other players I had for consideration, I look at Attach because technically he was the third highest AR KD. So I look at him, but I was like, I don't necessarily agree with it. I look at Draza, and I thought about him, and I was like, we'll end up putting him third. I look at a guy like Dashy. I thought about putting him on there. Geo, but the whole not play the whole year does hurt me a little bit. And the guy I gave hardest consideration to was Sib because the last couple stages he's been awesome, but maybe the body of work over the whole year I think was slightly worse than Draza, so I went Draza.
Yeah, I like it though. Draza's a good pick.
Yeah. All right. I guess you list off your 3 ARs. I got like somebody knocking on my door. I'll be back in a second. You talk about your 3 main ARs.
All right. Yep. Sounds good. My 3 main ARs, like I said a little bit ago, are Scrap. Been carrying up the Ultra the whole year, like a 1.17 in overall KD. If he's on the team, they definitely aren't as good as they will be, especially if they have someone else in there. Celium, highest KD, always can't die, impossible to kill player. Definitely if you can snake, but he cannot snake as well in this game, and there's a
Yeah.
GA on that. And I put Attach because Attach was very, very consistently good this year for the most part. Maybe here and there a couple of bad games, but I really like Attach and how he kind of bounced back from last year.
Yeah, and also for the first couple stages when Vegas was playing pretty well, Attach was like a hard carry for them. He was playing extremely well early on. I like the Attach shot. I don't think it's a bad one at all. Some people might be like, "Oh, he didn't win enough," but he was an incredible player this year.
Yep.
It was really hard for me not to put Sib in there, and that might be one that, like I say, the whole subject to change. That might be one I throw up there.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 SMG players of the year, Brock. I actually think this one's pretty easy. I would be pretty shocked if we didn't have the same 3, at least in whatever order. Who do you have? 1 through 3.
I have Simp, Hydra, shottzyy.
I have it in the exact same order. I honestly don't know how you couldn't. I guess like the only argument besides shottzyy, I guess you could like talk like Nero, a BZ. I mean, stats wise, Pred is up there, but I just think anybody that's watched the matches has thought shottzy's been the best player on OpTic. So I don't know how you could put Pred up there.
Yeah.
Kleenex, I think deserves a shout, but to me, I think the top 3 is pretty clearly Simp, then Hydra, then shottzyy.
Yep.
Honorable mentions though, like the guys who mentioned, BZ, those guys, Kleenex. Team of the season, Brock. For team of the season, like the first team, which is basically the 4 best players, it's 2 SMGs, 2 ARs. Who you got? I also think this is almost not debatable. I really think this is a clear 4, but I'm curious to see if you have different players.
My team of the season first number 1 is Simp, Hydra, Scrap, and then I end up putting Celium on for the last.
Yep, I have the same team. I really don't think it can be any different. I pretty strongly feel that that's the 4 that you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's different than what we had as the top 4 for MVP, but both of us in our top 4 for MVP had Simp, Hydra, shottzyy. So one of the SMGs has to be left off because you can only have 2 SMGs because the team of the season is 2 SMGs, 2 ARs. So Celium, Scrap, Simp, Hydra, we agree there. I wonder if we have the same team of the season number 2, so like the second team, 2 SMGs, 2 ARs again. Who you got there?
I put shottzyy, a BZ, Draza, and Dashy.
I have the same one. That's interesting. We ended up with the same teams. I agreed. I think Dashy. Now, once again, I think it is worth noting. I think both of us did it this way, but I did it building a roster. So I wanted to do it. I wanted to put a main, a flex, 2 SMGs. So I did it that way, doing it a main, a flex, 2 SMGs. I could see a world where, like, if you truly believe, like, a guy like Sib should be on there instead of Dashy, and you wanted to go Sib Draza, like you wanted to go 2 flexes, I can't knock it. But my personal criteria, the way I wanted to do it, was a main, a flex, and 2 SMGs. So I'm assuming since we had the same rosters, you probably did it the same way.
Yeah.
But I like, once again, like honorable mentions for me, like Sib is definitely one that's up there among the ARs. You could say Attach. I think even like a guy like Nero, Pred, BZ. Well, actually, no, I had him off, but I decided to put him on. So like Nero, Pred, Kleenex, even like guys like Ghosty. I think those are good shouts for potentially being right up there on those teams. Brock, then our last category before we wrap it up: rookie team of the season, 2 SMGs, 2 ARs. I put Abuza, Gwyn, Geo, and Estriel on my team.
Same. Gwyn, Estriel, Abuza, Geo.
I think it's hard because, like we said, I think you have to put your 3 that you have in the rookie of the year race. I don't know how you couldn't. And then the 4th player I went with that I didn't have in my MVP race was Geo, because once again, the whole part-time thing, only playing part of the year, hurts his rookie of the year standing for me. But Geo was an awesome flex player, and once again, I went like I was building a roster for this one. Yep. That's just the way that I wanted to go with my criteria. I do think, however, like obvious honorable mentions are people like 04, like we said, who was awesome. Real, I think, deserves a shout. Linz deserves a shout. Even Johnny, but he played extremely limited. I think all those guys deserve pretty big shouts. Even like a low-key late shout, he played pretty well in his limited time. Flames, pretty good player in his limited time.
Yeah. Yep, I agreed with you there too.
And then we've got some more things to fill up, but we will be submitting these votes. You guys will see where this is going to sometime this week when the person who organized this puts it all out. So we appreciate you guys listening. Brock, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
Not really. Just, excited for champs here in a couple weeks and see who wins that.
yeah, I'm super excited for that. But if you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. This was a fun episode to do to kind of talk about. Kind of sit here and talk about the awards. Like it's a unique opportunity. So shout out to the person that organized this. They'll kind of reveal everything this week, and then we'll maybe talk about it a little more. But it's super fun to do. We both appreciate the opportunity. We look forward to hopefully being a part of it every year because it's a really fun thing to do. It's kind of cool to be able to look back at the season and put down everything and kind of gather our thoughts where they may be. So yeah, appreciate you guys all so much for listening. We'll be back next week. Not exactly sure what we're 100% going to do next week because we'll have kind of like a week in between making our predictions. Going to wait until Monday the 15th, that night when we record, to do our predictions there. And then we're off to champs. So we'll see what happens there. But next week we're going to find something to do in between. And then we'll do the champs predictions 2 weeks from now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.